Jewish philosophy includes all philosophy carried out by Jews, or in relation to the religion of Judaism. Until modern Haskalah and Jewish emancipation, Jewish philosophy was preoccupied with attempts to reconcile coherent new ideas into the tradition of rabbinic Judaism, thus organizing emergent ideas that are not necessarily Jewish into a uniquely Jewish scholastic framework and worldview. With their acceptance into modern society, Jews with secular educations embraced or developed entirely new philosophies to meet the demands of the world in which they now found themselves. Medieval rediscovery of ancient Greek philosophy among the Geonim of 10th-century Babylonian academies brought rationalist philosophy into biblical Talmudist Judaism. Philosophy was generally in competition with Kabbalah. Both schools would become part of classic rabbinic literature, though the decline of scholastic rationalism coincided with historical events which drew Jews to the Kabbalistic approach. For Ashkenazi Jews, emancipation and encounter with secular thought from the 18th century onwards altered how philosophy was viewed. Ashkenazi and Sephardi communities had later and more ambivalent interaction with secular culture than in Western Europe. In the varied responses to modernity, Jewish philosophical ideas were developed across the range of emerging religious movements. These developments could be seen as either continuations, or breaks, with the canon of rabbinic philosophy of the Middle Ages, as well as the other historical dialectic aspects of Jewish thought, and resulted in diverse contemporary Jewish attitudes to philosophical methods. Ancient Jewish philosophy. Philosophy in the Bible. Rabbinic literature sometimes views Abraham as a philosopher. Some have suggested that Abraham introduced a philosophy learned from Melchizedek. Some Jews ascribe the Sefer Yetzirah, Book of Creation, to Abraham. A midrash describes how Abraham understood this world to have a creator and director by comparing this world to a house with a light in it. What is now called the argument from design. Psalms contains invitations to admire the wisdom of God through his works. From this, some scholars suggest Judaism harbors a philosophical undercurrent. Ecclesiastes is often considered to be the only genuine philosophical work in the Hebrew Bible. Its author seeks to understand the place of human beings in the world and life's meaning. Philo of Alexandria. Philo attempted to fuse and harmonize Greek and Jewish philosophy through allegory, which he learned from Jewish exegesis and Stoicism. Philo attempted to make his philosophy the means of defending and justifying Jewish religious truths. These truths he regarded as fixed and determinate, and philosophy was used as an aid to truth, and a means of arriving at it. To this end Philo chose from philosophical tenets of Greeks, refusing those that did not harmonize with Judaism, such as Aristotle's doctrine of the eternity and indestructibility of the world. Dr. Bernard Revel, in Dissertation on Karaite Halakha, points to writings of a 10th-century Karaite, Jacob Kikisani, who quotes Philo, illustrating how Karaites made use of Philo's works in development of Karaite Judaism. Philo's works became important to medieval Christian scholars who leveraged the work of Karaites to lend credence to their claims that these are the beliefs of Jews, are technically correct, yet mendacious. Attribution. Jewish scholarship after destruction of Second Temple. With the Roman destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, Second Temple Judaism was in disarray. But Jewish traditions were preserved, especially thanks to the shrewd maneuvers of Yochanan ben Zakkai, who saved the Sanhedrin and moved it to Yavne. Philosophical speculation was not a central part of rabbinic Judaism, although some have seen the Mishnah as a philosophical work. Rabbi Akiva ben Joseph has also been viewed as a philosophical figure. His statements include 1. How favored is man, for he was created after an image, for in an image, Elohim made man. 2. Everything is foreseen, but freedom of will is given to every man. 3. The world is governed by mercy, but the divine decision is made by the preponderance of the good or bad in one's actions. After the Bar Kokhba revolt, rabbinic scholars gathered in Tiberias and Saif to reassemble and reassess Judaism, its laws, theology, liturgy, beliefs and leadership structure. In 219 CE, the Surah Academy was founded by Abu Arika. For the next 5 centuries, Talmudist academies focused upon reconstituting Judaism, and little, if any, philosophic investigation was pursued. Who influences whom? Rabbinic Judaism had limited philosophical activity until it was challenged by Islam, Karaite Judaism, and Christianity. With Tanakh, Mishnah, and Talmud, there was no need for a philosophic framework. From an economic viewpoint, Rabbinite trade dominance was being usurped by coordinated Christian and Islamic forced conversions, and torture, compelling Jewish scholars to understand nascent economic threats. These investigations triggered new ideas and intellectual exchange among Jewish and Islamic scholars in the areas of jurisprudence, mathematics, astronomy, logic and philosophy. Jewish scholars influenced Islamic scholars and Islamic scholars influenced Jewish scholars. Contemporary scholars continue to debate who was Muslim and who was Jew. Some Islamic scholars were Jewish scholars prior to forced conversion to Islam. Some Jewish scholars willingly converted to Islam, such as Abdullah, son of Salam, while others later reverted to Judaism, and still others, born and raised as Jews, were ambiguous in their religious beliefs, such as Ibn al-Rawandam, although they lived according to the customs of their neighbors. Around 700 CE, Amr ibn Ubayd Abu Uthman al-Bashri introduces 2 streams of thought that influenced Jewish, Islamic and Christian scholars: Qadariya, Bar Shamia Mutazila. The story of the Bar Shamia Mutazila and Qadariya is as important, if not more so, as the intellectual symbiosis of Judaism and Islam in Islamic Spain. Around 733 CE, Marnatrane ben Habibe moves to Kairouan, then to Spain, transcribing the Talmud Bavli for the Academy at Kairouan from memory, later taking a copy with him to Spain. Karaism borrowing from the Mutakallamin of Basra, the Karaites were the first Jewish group to subject Judaism to Mutazila. Rejecting the Talmud and rabbinical tradition, Karaites took liberty to reinterpret the Tanakh. This meant abandoning foundational Jewish belief structures. Some scholars suggest that the major impetus for the formation of Karaism was a reaction to the rapid rise of Shia Islam, which recognized Judaism as a fellow monotheistic faith but claimed that it detracted from monotheism by deferring to rabbinic authority. Karaites absorbed certain aspects of Jewish sects such as the followers of Abu Isa, Maliki, and Yudganites, who were influenced by East Islamic scholarship yet deferred to the Ash'ari when contemplating the sciences. Philosophic synthesis begins. The spread of Islam throughout the Middle East and North Africa rendered Muslim all that was once Jewish. Greek philosophy, science, medicine and mathematics was absorbed by Jewish scholars living in the Arab world due to Arabic translations of those texts, remnants of the Library of Alexandria. Early Jewish converts to Islam brought with them stories from their heritage, known as Isra'iliyat, which told of the Banu Israel, the pious men of ancient Israel. One of the most famous early mystics of Sufism, Hassan of Basra, introduced numerous Isra'iliyat legends into Islamic scholarship. Stories that went on to become representative of Islamic mystical ideas of piety of Sufism. Haigaon, at Pumbedita Academy, begins a new phase in Jewish scholarship and investigation. Haigaon augments Talmudist scholarship with non-Jewish studies. Haigaon was a savant with an exact knowledge of the theological movements of his time, so much so that Moses ibn Ezra called him a mutakallim. Hai was competent to argue with followers of Qadariya and Mutazilites, sometimes adopting their polemic methods. Through correspondence with Talmudist academies at Kairouan, Córdoba and Lucena, Haigaon passes along his discoveries to Talmudist scholars therein. The teachings of the Brethren of Purity were carried to the West by a Spanish Arab of Madrid, Muhammad Abu al-Qasim al-Majtara al-Andalusi, who died in AD 1004 to 1005. Thanks to Averroes, Spain became a center of philosophical learning, as is reflected by the explosion of philosophical inquiry among Jews, Muslims and Christians.